Right. Hi there, everyone. I'm having some technical problems here. So I hope that you can hear me and I know you can see my guest Clayton, but I'm having problems actually hearing Clayton. So if there's anybody in the chat room and you can hear me, it'd be nice to know that you can. And I'm going to ask Clayton to do the same as well. I know that we're a bit over time, but if there's anyone there, great, just go ahead and say that you are. Otherwise, I can conduct this interview and no one's going to be able to hear Clayton, which would be an absolute crime, Clayton, not to be able to hear you. But Clayton, can you hear? You can hear me,
I can hear you perfectly.
but I can't hear you. So we're having some problems here. Um, so Danny's saying we can hear you. Great. Can you guys tell me when Clayton speaks whether you can hear Clayton, please? Clayton?
Can you hear me, guys? Hello.
Did anyone hear Clayton speak then? Just let us know because we're having some technical problems here and I'm trying to sort it out. Um, did anyone hear Clayton when he just spoke?
Hello.
Yes or
Can you
no?
guys hear me? Hello.
Trying to get people to help me out here. Um, oh, you can hear us both. Oh, great, guys. Yay! Clayton, I'm going to go ahead. But I can't hear
Okay.
what you're saying to me. So I'm having problems, guys, because this is really crazy. Just log back out and log back in. We tried that beforehand. We can hear Clayton. Oh, gosh, this is terrible. But I can't hear you, Clayton. Oh,
This is going to
I'm
be
not
very
good with
funny.
technical stuff, guys. And I tried doing the, this is hilarious because now I can't hear what you're saying to me, Clayton. Ah.
Oh no, I don't know. I
I
don't
tell you
know.
something, this is going to be fun, isn't it? If I can't hear you, I'm going to have to ask a question, wait for a reply, see if your mouth is moving, and then hopefully the audience can tell me, yeah, well, they can. Well, do you know what, guys? I'm not going to get this back and forth thing because I cannot hear Clayton properly through this thing. But we're going to see if let's just have some fun. I won't be able to hear Clayton's response. I might have to try and lip read, which is going to be really, really hard. Have you got your audio settings right? Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was just trying. Check that your output is on earbuds, bottom right. Yeah, let's try. Let's just double check. Thank you guys for being so helpful. I was trying that. I went into the audio settings. I've got audio input, which is my Yeti mic, audio output, which is the speakers on the Yeti microphone. Is that right? Who knows? And that's it, guys. That's what I've got here. Does that make any sense to any of you technical people out there? Take the earbuds out. Take the earbuds out. Okay, if I take the earbuds out, I haven't got earbuds. I've just got a simple setup here, straight into my microphone. Um, I'll tell you what I'm going to do then. I might have to forget about the Yeti mic for now and just go with my real tech. I'll try that, guys, and then we're going to have some fun. Let's see what happens.
Oh no.
This is real life, isn't it? I can hear you there, Clayton. What did you just say?
I just laughed.
Oh, I can hear you now.
There we go. Thank
But
you. Thank you, Danny and
okay,
Nicola.
okay. So can everyone hear us and we can get cracking with this? Yay! Give me a yes, somebody. Yay! Can you hear Clayton?
Yeah, I think they can hear me.
It would take it out of the mic and see if it works. It would be better to have less quality and then you can hear each other. Okay, right. So you guys can hear. Boom tech issue solved. You guys are amazing. Perfect. You are all officially leaders. Yay! Great. Game on.
Yeah, that was a good test. You know, the whole
Yes.
emotional intelligence and stress management. Joy and
Do
I.
I have any? I don't know. Do you know what, Clayton? I'm going to introduce you properly because I've got some. Guess what, guys? Clayton. I've got it all written down here, guys, for me to tell you who Clayton is. Now, Clayton is my special guest, and you guys are all officially my favorite tech crew. So thank you very much for being there for me. And I'm going to just share that because everyone said things like, yes, awesome. You are having, oh, that's the wrong thing. Anyway, it's meant to show something, meant to show somebody's. Stay calm. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nicola. Yeah, stay calm. So Clayton is my special guest. And my question, opening question is, would any of you love to work in a call center? Yes or no? Yes or no. Would any of you like to work in a, yeah. Well, that would be my worst nightmare. But this is something that Clayton did in his younger years. And I'm going to ask Clayton why he did that. Now, he met a very, very special manager. Let's call her a very good leader. And she helped Clayton to become a good leader and to be inspired to be a good leader. So, Clayton, I'm going to let you in on at this part here and not waste any more time because we've already lost 10 minutes of time. So, working in a call center, I went on to Chat GTP this morning and said, what do people in call centers do? It gave me some very interesting answers. But I've got you on the spot. So I'm just going to go straight to the horse's mouth, Clayton. What do people in call centers do, Clayton? Hmm.
Thanks, Joy. I'm glad we sorted out the technical issues because it was a very good stress management 101. We started 15 minutes early because we wanted to test things. And the closer we got to 1 o'clock, the redder I became, the more we were typing to restream. Yeah, that was crazy. But thanks for having me, Joy. I absolutely adore you. I've had a couple of chats with you. We always an hour meeting takes an hour and a half with the two of us, so I really do love our chats. But yeah, the question: how did I start in the call center? To be honest with you, like any good South African, back in the early 2000s, I worked in a pub in London for 2 years. Lived upstairs. Didn't do well for my weight because chips were easy to get to, and Guinness was on tap. So, but I went back home. I was 24 years old, and I needed a job to keep my social life going. And like you said earlier, nobody's ever said at career day in school, "I'd love to work in a call center." But so many of us,
I did.
you
No,
did.
only joking. Only joking, Clayton.
So
Only
many of
joking.
us end up in the call center. That's the problem. That's the thing. So I
It's
did the
not
same thing.
it's not a crime to work in a call center, though, is it? Because
Not at
to
all.
me,
Not at
it's a
all.
very stressful job. Okay,
Not
it's
at
a
all.
very
I
stressful job.
It is a very, very stressful job and it teaches you incredible things. And I do this thing with a company called Worktree. It's a volunteering company where you talk about your career to I think the year 10 to year 12 year students. And so often they ask me, why did you work in a call center? Why? They flabbergasted with how many years I spent there. But I started working in a call center and it's an incredible place to learn massive life skills that you can use for the rest of your life. You very, very quickly become comfortable with uncomfortable. You become you're able to handle decipher situations or decipher conversations, have crucial conversations. You can adapt very quickly. Very often incentives change and you learn resilience. More than half of your pay is commission. So you learn how to adapt with a unstable income.
That would give me a heart attack, I
No,
think,
it is
to
it
be
is a
quite
crazy
honest.
place, but it is such a good place to learn. And if you ever find yourself in a call center as an agent, absolutely, if you're there for 2 minutes or 20 years, it doesn't matter. Use and abuse the time to use for your own personal development as much as you humanly possibly can. It's an unbelievable experience. I was there for as an agent for 2 years. Very fortunate for me. I was recognized quite quickly, and I grew through the ranks. And pretty soon, 2 years in, I was managing 150 people, and yeah, that was crazy because I didn't actually know what I was doing. And at the time, in this call center back home in South Africa, we were not having the best of times because in a employee engagement survey, Great Places to Work, out of 10 call centers worldwide for our own company, we finished 10th. So we were not looking good.
Is
So much
that
so,
was that bottom then? Was that at the bottom of the league when you say 10? 10 out of
yeah,
10, basically.
yes, our team was not engaged. Our
Okay.
employee engagement survey was really not so well. The results were not favorable for us, and it didn't look good. It's so much so that our big brother in Europe, in most call centers at that time, were in Cork in Ireland. Our head office was in Cork, and they sent a leader to basically come steady our ship. And she came in. She's still today. She's still my mentor. 20 odd years later, we still chat very often. She now works for Google, obviously because she's such a talented person. She was headhunted by them, but she came in, and the first thing she did was, not knowing me from a bar of soap, was just show an interest in me, believe in me, show me the game plan, and said, Clayton, this is what we're going to do, and here's the wheels to the bus. You drive this thing.
So
And
Clayton, I'm going to stop you there, okay?
yeah.
Because it's quite interesting. You're only then about 25-ish,
Mm,
20, so
26,
quite 26, okay. And then she came across, looked at you, looked around the call center, and out of all the people that she could have chosen, she chose you and said, Clayton, I want you to be in charge.
Yeah, well, I had just become the manager of the call center before she came out. So I was getting into this situation where the staff weren't very happy. I had no idea what to do as a leader. And many of the people that are on this call now listening that maybe spend time in call centers, like Danny, he'll know that very often leaders in call centers, the team leader level and the manager level, don't get the support they need when they start. Very often you're elevated to leadership because you're perhaps a good salesperson. And there's actually a phrase, accidental leadership. You become an accidental leader. And that's very dangerous. For me, luckily, my personality lent itself to what my leader was trying to do for me. But very often, the greatest salesperson doesn't want to be the leader. They don't want that responsibility.
And in a way, this is a big problem across the board, though, isn't it,
Mm,
Clayton? And it's not just the position that you um, found yourself in. You became a manager, but without the training. It happens a lot. I do
yes,
hear it a lot.
it happens a
Okay,
lot.
which is not clever. It's not smart, is it?
No, it's so dangerous because if you don't get support, then you don't actually know how to get the best out of people, and you don't learn the basics of leadership. Which means if you know the basics and you have a solid foundation as a leader, then it's very easy to be able to inspire others to do great things themselves. And then what happens is, because you're not doing that, your people understand that or they feel you don't have their back, you're not there actually to support them, you don't value their contribution, and they start emotionally detaching themselves from the team and from the business, and inevitably they leave just because you got no support. And so often as leaders, we look for that silver bullet, or we look for that magical policy that's going to change everything and put our name up in lights and this big legacy that we're creating for ourselves. But we actually overlook the one biggest positive change we can make is with our people. And that's the value leaders have.
Do you know something, Clayton? For me, this word human resources, okay, some people love it, some people hate it. All right. But really, resource is a good word because resources reminds me of gold and diamonds, things that are really valuable. And if we could see, I don't know how we forget it, if we could see that people are valuable, that people are a resource, then we'd look after them. Because you know that my whole perspective is from the mental health stuff, the emotional stuff, the spiritual stuff. We are pretty smart people, but we're also emotional. How can we? How can people overlook that fact? We're not machines, and even though we've got AI coming in, about to take over the world, if we allow it, um, human beings are meant to be a little bit smarter than machines. But some of the treatment that's been happening in terms of, I think, just the dismissal of human beings and their feelings, it just doesn't make any sense to me, Clayton. So, no, to hear this lady come in and see that quality in you and give you an opportunity to grow and to blossom, and then to give you training, you're onto something, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so thankful for our paths crossing because what she did, it cost her no money. It cost her some time because she had to give the autonomy to me. She basically let me run the ship. But she believed in me so much. And what happened to me was the results were incredible because here I was a couple of months later after she started, and I was working my behind off for this call center. And I realized that I was doing it because someone saw something in me they wanted to nurture and develop. They trusted me, they believed in me, and I didn't want to let them down. I wanted to prove them right. So I get it when leaders say it's very risky, it feels risky to give someone that autonomy because at the end of the day, it is your head on the block. You know, if the team does well, it's the team. If the team doesn't do well, it's you. So as a leader, you're wearing that hat. So I can understand the risk.
And that whole thing about letting go, Clayton, is a big thing, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
allowing someone to do the job that you've now given to them, but you're still looking over their shoulder and you're still telling them what to do, which is demoralizing. And as human beings, we are wanting to feel valuable and useful and do meaningful work. But if someone is micromanaging you in that way, then you just kind of give up, don't you? So, what's the turnover rate of staff within call centers?
Look, when it comes to like a sales call center where your salary is very heavily commission based, that is a stressful environment. So I think the numbers are normally 18 months to 2 years maximum that you'd be in that environment because it is very stressful. You know, you don't know how much
That's
you're earning this month, and then the thing is, you work so hard. Like now, you worked so hard in May to reach that target to get paid. Just to get paid. You're paid 31st of May, and you're walking away. Next day, you're back to zero. From hero to zero. It's 1st of June. That whole monster starts again.
starts again.
So
So
it is
you're
incredibly stressful. Yeah,
always under pressure,
always under pressure,
always
and
under
it's
pressure.
especially if the targets are pushing you, stretch targets. You know, the real money is when you make a little bit more. Sometimes that has a negative effect on this customer service because now we're chasing something. We're very desperate, so we're not giving the best service, and we're just chasing numbers, and our conversion rate goes, and all kinds of things like that happen. What I like to tell customer service agents, just this morning, I was training some agents. They're hitting the phones today. And I said to them, if I see you in 2 weeks and there's no sales, it's fine. There's no problem. Because I still from time to time help companies with call center agents. And all I want them to do is have memorable conversations with customers. Aim for memorable conversations. If that customer puts the phone down, how they're going to feel if you can make them go, wow, that person made my day, even though I didn't buy from them. What a friendly and what a nice person to speak to, even though you're selling insurance or whatever you do. You know, take the opportunity to make that experience memorable. I always say to call center agents, you know, a call center agent's purpose is not as tangible as a nurse or a doctor or a chef. A chef's purpose is very tangible. It's to make great food. So call center agents, I always refer to Maya Angelou's quote. You know, it's not they'll never remember what you say or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And you have an opportunity when that person picks up the phone to make their day a bit better, even if they don't buy from you. You have the opportunity to make them smile. So,
Now that particular quality in the person who is the call center agent is amazing. You mentioned the word resilience.
mm,
They've got to have such an emotional strength. Possibly, I bring the word in like, self-esteem, confidence. All of these things have to be there. But on that continuous basis, even I would get worn down. And I've got a reasonable amount of reserves of those things, but I think I would get worn down. And if you put on top of it the fact that my pay is variable, I will freak out because I am really like a bit weird when I haven't got enough money. That what I call my baseline amount of money. If that's in danger, I can't even focus or concentrate. But you did well. Okay, you became a leader and you encouraged. Well, in fact, you supported the people around you to the point that they didn't have a turnover of staff of like 2 years. People were staying on for like, did you say 10 years to me when we were doing this pre-interview?
no, actually longer because I left that company, and some of those agents I went to go visit them because I was in back home in South Africa February and March, and I went to see them all in March, and many of them are still there 15 years later, 16 years later, and they're still doing the high variable job. But it's because that environment was created that excites them, the one where they actually matter, an environment where they valued and their contributions matter, and they feel like they belong there. So that's a great place to be. So they still
Yeah.
there, and they're earning good money because those discussions were had. When you address the fundamental issues. So when you have a company survey, you can quickly identify quick wins, things as a leader you should nail right now to show that you're listening. Quick win. But you can also, during company surveys or surveys like we had, identify the fundamental issues that might take a bit longer to fix, like incentive structures. And repositioning incentive structures, there's never going to be more money. But how can you distribute the pot of money we have now, for example, to make people's lives better? Can we increase the basic salaries? Can we? What else can we do? So inventive ways of looking at things. And if you do stuff like that, you're really showing that you care about the people, and that's what we did. It
So you
wasn't.
you had to get really very creative as a manager, and you say you had training, which is good to hear, actually, Clayton. It sounds to me like there's something about your personality which would perhaps, if I put you in any situation, you might just have risen in that way, or at least had that what I would call a very tough skin. I've got a soft centre, and it's got worse over time. The more I do this job, the more softer I get. I'm very, very, I just don't like bad news and terrible stuff. But I become hypersensitive, I think. But you sound as though you had this kind of personality to start with, which was suited to the environment that you're in. But it sounds like you would have done well wherever you went. That's what I'm thinking. But I've got some good questions here. One person, I'll bring this person's, let's get this thing up here. Let's see if it's Danny. Get this right, Joy.
Danny's
I
got
have
some
so I have
questions.
such fun. I have such fun pressing all these things. Let's just think. Right. So Danny did say that resilience is important, but employers shouldn't rely or test or push, I suppose, that resilience in you. You shouldn't have to be that tough in a way just because you're doing a job. Human beings have a natural resilience, but it's a
Hmm.
good question, actually, Danny. Thank you for that. I'm going to just wanted you to just think about that, Clayton. And then I've
Yeah.
also got something here from Nicola, just talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that we have needs that need to be met. And that's where we're going to be moving on to, really, is human beings. What do human beings need? And you became a good manager, and to this point where you now have your own company, where you're still passionate about developing good leadership. What are the qualities that you think they need to pay attention to when they're working with other human beings? Because I go on about emotional intelligence. If you watch what I get up to on LinkedIn, it's all emotional intelligence. And that's just a word for, as you would say, good people skills. So tell me what you did to turn the ship around in terms of working with your new, all the people under you, all your co-colleagues, co-colleagues, co-workers and colleagues.
Sorry, you want me to talk about the leaders I'm helping today? Like,
Well, going back in time,
oh yeah.
what skills did you have to bring to the fore? Because you say to me things like caring about people, even being interested in their lives. Um, and I found, wow, would you find the time to do that? Where did you find the time to do that?
Well, it's very important to get the basics right. So I focus very much on the basics first. If you're doing the basics of leadership right, then you're setting yourself up to become a leader that's bigger than any challenge, if I may say that. And eventually you become magnetic. That's where you want to work your way towards. That's my philosophy. So the basics are things like narrowing down on your values. I heard a very interesting story recently where a lady was saying she is a coach herself, and she was called by an owner of an accounting firm. He told her he's had the accounting firm for decades. He's an elderly gentleman, but still works in the company, very successful firm, and he was struggling to get through to his young accountants. He didn't feel they had the passion and oomph that he had when he was their age, and he doesn't know how to get through to them. So he asked her to help, and he asked her to come and witness a meeting he was going to have with him. So he had this meeting, and she says he was talking about digging trenches together. And in the midst of this, in these trenches, they look after each other and they all this kind of stuff and digging their way out the trench and rising. And after his whole speech, one of the accountants put up their hand for a question. And he said, "What's the question?" He said, "What is a trench?" And it just showed you that the values, his values and their values are totally not aligned. They are totally on different pages.
But it's like having telling somebody a story, but your reference points are
Yeah.
different. So you mentioned the age gap. So of course he's referring to his reference points, and it was the war, or perhaps his grandparents' things, But you're right. No one's going to have. Well, thank God, not many people are going to be familiar with the word trenches. You
Mm.
know, we're living in a reasonably peaceful time, at least where we are sort of broadcasting from, and we don't have to worry about those things. So trenches would mean nothing.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
one of the first basic skills I needed is to understand your own values and the reasons you're a leader. What are your intentions? So if you don't have a clear idea of your own values and what you live by, then think of a time in your life, maybe a personal moment or a career moment that was quite a big moment that you repeat often, and drill down in your own values and ask yourself if you're living by them. Because if you know yourself that well, then your intentions become a lot clearer to your people and they become a lot more comfortable with you because you're living to what you're saying you're doing, and by doing that, you're showing your intentions clearly. Are you there for the right reasons? Are you there
Okay.
to inspire others to do great things themselves? Are you there to add value? If that's so that's the basics. That's the first thing we have to ask ourselves.
Can I put you on the spot then, Clayton,
Yeah.
and ask you what are your values? And perhaps you might pick two, three. Pick three. Yeah.
One of them is respect. Um, I know there's a saying that you must earn my respect, but I've never believed in that because um, you should respect everybody. Everyone on this call that's putting comments in, I don't know them. They've all got their backstories. They've all lead actors in their own story. They've got lives. Why should I not respect them already? People in the walk in the street, the waiter that serves me coffee. Everyone should be respected. Don't earn my respect. So I've always believed that that's a very strong value. And when I think about it, because when I'm helping leaders, I often have to do introspection and think, well, how did I come up with respect? And so I go back to when I was 15, 16 years old, and my dad organized a birthday party for me. And when you're 15, 16, you're all trying to show off and be funny in front of your friends. And I made a joke when all my friends were there. I made a very bad joke about my father, and I made him look really bad in front of my friends. And he took me by the ear, very embarrassingly. And as 16-year-old boy or 15, 16, that is super embarrassing because you're trying to impress the girls there. And he took me to my room and he had a very long conversation with me about respect. And yeah, so since then, respect has been one of my values I live by. And funny enough that you mentioned the values, I've been dealing with a leader recently, phenomenal guy, phenomenal guy. That was also getting a bit frustrated with some of the stuff that he couldn't get through to his team. And when we drilled down on his values, he had very strong values because he used to be a black cab driver. And I never knew this about black cab drivers, but every month they have to do a 3-minute verbal test. If they fail that test, they can't drive a black cab. I think it's 56 days. So can you imagine what that does for you, for your determination, for how you see things and how you're on the ball all the time? It makes so much sense now why black cab drivers were fighting with Uber so much, because black cabs are not just, it's actually like a tradition. It's got a history around it. Imagine writing a verbal test every month, and if you fail, you don't get to drive one. That's the
It's
quality.
a it's a very tough thing to be a black cab driver, even in terms of
Mm,
acquiring well, they call it the knowledge, don't they? But having to know every back street and every side street, I don't think I could do it. And you're right. And it's nice to know that as an industry or as a profession, they got high standards. So
yeah.
yeah, I
So
agree with you
once you know
there.
your
Yeah,
values, and it's much
yeah.
easier to understand why you think the way you do, why you are acting as a leader the way you do, why maybe you get frustrated at times, because maybe someone's sitting like this at their desk, and that frustrates you, but you're not sure why it frustrates you. But you got to dig deep and think, well, what is it about that? Their work's okay.
Do you know
Why
what I
is
would
that
say,
doing?
Clayton? Do you know what I would say? I would say that it's reminded you of something from your past. It has to remind you about something that was either said to you or that you said to other people. It's literally stopping your thoughts and working out what am I making that mean. So if you were talking to me and I was leaning back in my chair that way, okay, you might think I'm being disrespectful. You might think I'm not listening.
Mhm.
I personally wouldn't do that. But if in reverse, if you were doing that to me, there's a possibility that I would think that this person is being disrespectful. They're not taking me seriously. So you have to work out what am I making it mean. And you're right about clearing it up and
Yeah.
even bringing the elephant into the room that's saying, when you sit like that, I don't know if it makes me feel that you're not paying attention. Am I right? Am I wrong? So
100%.
there's room for some honest conversation there too, Clayton.
And that will solve so many problems. That little bit of honest conversation solves years of conflict. If you keep it within, it's going to frustrate you until such time as you talk about it, because you're assuming in your own mind. And that's another thing I was going to say when Danny spoke about resilience, and companies um, shouldn't challenge people's resilience. It shouldn't be that way. And as call center agents, you very quickly learn how to deal with your own thoughts. What I mean by that is, if you're in a sales environment and you're sitting there, and not everyone has a great day, and as a salesperson, you are going to get more no from customers than you are going to get yes. Otherwise, we'd all be driving Ferraris, and I certainly don't have a Ferrari, right? But you're sitting there and you might be having a bad week, and everyone's ringing the bell for sales. It's very, very easy to start doubting yourself, start blaming things. They're giving me bad leads. Someone's against me. Why are they getting the easy ones? Why aren't my people answering? And you're creating these stories in your own brain as a call center agent, thinking to yourself that it's me. And then you might have a product that you're selling this week, and this product might be a little bit expensive. And yesterday you spoke to 3 people and they all told you it was expensive. And now today, before you even phone someone, you've already said they're going to say it's expensive. And when they do say it's expensive, you've vindicated your thoughts and you think to yourself, well, pat on the back, Clayton, I knew that was going to happen.
So
So
we're looking at this internal dialogue that we all get into, and
yeah,
that person would not be alone. I have those kind of conversations too, because human beings, once we've encountered something that's terrifying or makes us worried or nervous, the brain is just wired to remember it. We're survival machines, so it's what can I do to survive to the next minute? And if it's remembering that piece of information, if that is going to save your life, then guess what? You're going to keep it in mind. And you're right. How do you not continue if you're having a bad run of even just business, let alone somebody in an office like ringing the bell because they've had a good sale? Ding a ling a ling a ling a ling. That's me. That's me. Oh, look at me. I've done ever so well. And you've not done well. You're going to do the comparison thing.
yeah, definitely.
You're
You're going
bound
to
to
compare
do the
yourself.
comparison.
You're going to
Someone
compare
said
yourself.
I've got a lovely message here. I just have to share this one, Clayton. This is Adrian saying that, this victim mindset and adverse being, thinking that the world might be against you. It's your worst
Yeah,
adversary, basically. It's going to
so
knock you
true.
off your stride. So thank you so much, Adrian. I absolutely agree with you there. But I wanted to move on to, I know that you've got 2 dogs. Now, you probably don't know this. It's like being on a television program, isn't it? But I spoke to your wife, and you have 2 dogs. Can you just remind me of the name? Was that Clayton?
Jack and Bonnie. You spoke to my wife.
Just name of your dogs, please, Clayton.
Jack and Bonnie.
Guys, are you paying attention to Clayton here? Jack and Bunny. I haven't really spoken to your wife, but
Oh,
Clayton,
yes.
you got so serious with me there, didn't
No, I
you?
was like, when was this?
One to me, one to me. Yes, it's like being on television. They don't tell you these things, but yeah, I didn't really speak to your wife, but I wanted to see your response, and it was exactly as I thought it would be. And I didn't tell you I'd do that either, Clayton. So yay, I'm a winner. But Clayton, you have 2 dogs, okay? So Bonnie and
Jack. Very
Jack.
expensive, I'll let you know.
Right. So we're talking about leadership here. So let me just lower the tone here, have a bit of light-hearted stuff here. So are you the pack leader in their lives?
I think so. Sometimes I can't get them off the bed, or make space on the couch for me to sit. So I can't. Maybe I'm not the leader. I might not be. This might be a perfect example of the tail wagging the dog.
So there are some parts of your life when you're not actually doing that kind of leadership thing. Yeah?
Probably not. Yeah, if you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly normal. And I just wanted to break the ice there, because I know that with animals, I watch a lot of programs with dogs on them and people training dogs and all kinds of things, and human beings are meant to be the pack leader. A lot of the time, the dogs behave badly because of the owners. And you find that a lot of the therapists, these dog therapists, end up having to take the owners aside and have a good word with them. So yeah, having a good leader is going to make a huge difference for all of us, and teaching them the skills. So you've made it your mission to start your own company and continue, well, just trying to create create more leaders. And I wanted to know why. It's quite a big task that you set yourself.
You know what? It's And it's funny because I've been in my own business now since February last year. And I started off because I wanted to help leaders understand the opportunity they have to have other people do great, to inspire other people to do great things, the opportunity they have to add value. It's such a massive opportunity. Don't do yourself an injustice as a leader. When you're in that role, that's actually your opportunity and your responsibility. So that's why I started, and I there's actually someone making comments right now, a very good friend of mine and an old colleague we actually met many years ago, Shoal Brewer, and he'll know this person, but in the call center I used to work in, I used to sit on the fourth floor, right in the back, and in front of me were 150 people at one stage, all agents and leaders, and I could see the elevator or the lift, whatever you want to call it, in the foyer. And we had this guy that used to come to our office. He was the vice president of our company, but he wasn't my direct boss. But this guy was so magnetic because he had this positivity and buzz around him. He used to come into the office every now and then because he was based in Europe. So he would come visit the South African office every couple of months. But when he came in, everybody got treated exactly the same, from the site leader to the cleaner, whoever they were, and they all got a conversation with him. And I would catch myself sitting there, having to go maybe to a meeting or going to meet my wife for lunch. But I would sit there, and if I heard him, I would delay going because I didn't want to miss the interaction I had with him. Because I know he's going to go through every single person before he gets to me, because I'm right in the corner, and he's going to greet everyone and say hello and speak to them for a couple of seconds. And he was the vice president. I mean, he was much higher than anyone in our office. And when he got to me, or whoever he got to, but with me, he made me feel like I was the only person on the planet when I spoke to him. He made me feel so good about myself. And he would bring up things from 2, 3 months ago. And he'd say, Clayton, how did it go? And if it went well, he'd celebrate with me. And if it went badly, he'll tell me, like, so what did you learn? What would you do next time if you had the opportunity? And he was so invested in us. And because we believed in this guy so much, I mean, he was obviously more savvy to the business numbers than we were. He obviously knew where the business was headed because he had exposure to the real numbers and what would be making profit, right? We didn't have that kind of, and we didn't have those numbers. But he had such belief in the business and was so passionate about it that we followed him. I mean, this guy, Joy, he could have told us, let's go steal some horses, and we would have gone. We wouldn't even ask questions.
A
So
powerful
when you're so
person.
magnetic,
Mm.
when you get to that level where you're doing the basics right as a leader, you're there for the right reasons, because then you become bigger than any challenge. And when you're that magnetic, that you have that impact on people because you make them feel good about themselves, you're their number one cheerleader, you believe wholeheartedly in their success, and it's all you want to see is them succeed. When that's what you really want, they'll follow you. When
And
you
those are amazing skills to have, and some people
Mm.
innately have that. You can be around people who just seem to attract that kind of energy. Do you think it's something that you can teach people, Clayton?
You know
Well,
what?
not you personally, but can people be taught those skills?
I've been deliberating that for a long time, and you can. And there's actually a very good book I read recently. It's called Charismatic Leader by Kevin Murray. Now, charismatic leader and magnetic leaders, I guess, very similar. Um, and in the book, he explains exactly how you can become charismatic as a leader. And it's also the basic stuff that I teach is intentions, inclusion, value, belonging, motivation, relationships. Those things, if you can do those things well, people will be drawn to you.
And it
If
kind
I
of
can
goes,
show you
it kind,
appreciation,
it sort of goes back to what the comment that I think it might, can't remember, was it Nicola might have made, just around Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you're meeting people's needs, then you're making them feel happy. And I know that in my world, this thing about being seen, heard, and understood, they're major, major things that you can give to a human being. And I know when it's happening to me because I feel like I don't play computer games, but Super Mario's has come back into fashion if I stand still for long enough. But like all those ping, 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 it's just that Clayton's really listening to me. Oh, he's noticed that I exist. Oh my God, he cares about me. And that leader that vice president who came over every now and then to see all of you, you were getting a real burst of like I call it yumminess, but a big
yeah,
burst of
good.
energy being fed something in you that this person acknowledges me. They are affirming that I'm a human being. They're affirming that I'm valuable enough to be spoken to, and they care. I I think you can teach people that those skills. You know, some people it's a little bit harder to teach because they don't really believe it. But I notice with you, Clayton, that there's a lot of I get a good feeling when I'm around you, and I think it's because you speak from the heart, and I can feel it. So my sort of like job, my role, emotional intelligence coach and also therapist, I've got this kind of sensor now that is just so attuned to people's feelings that I can be around people and feel flat, or I can be around people and I feel really energized, and I can be around some people and it just sucks the life out of me. So I'm very, very much in tune with my own internal barometer, and it helps me to I suppose to assess how I'm feeling, whether it's me or whether it's them. I give people a second chance, of course, and then I just make an assessment. But helping people to feel good about themselves, I think that's an amazing skill,
You know,
Clayton.
I always talk about the aha moment for any leader, the holy grail, if you will, is if you can get discretionary effort from people. Discretionary effort is when people go above and beyond what's asked of them for the benefit of the organization, but because of you, because they want to, at their own discretion, do it for you, the leader, right? That is nirvana. Now, we would have done it for this guy. We would have worked longer because we wanted to do it because of him, because he made us feel good about ourselves. We knew he had our backs. We knew he had our best interests at heart. We knew that we felt that he wanted us to succeed personally, not just as a business, but he wanted to see you go to bigger and better things yourself. And he celebrated. Even when people left the business, he would celebrate them moving on to better things. And that just cemented the fact that this guy really wanted you to do well.
He
And you,
cares about me, yes. And
and
I was
you
going to say, Clayton, it feels a little bit like a parental sort of feeling as well, doesn't it? I mean, if we've come from reasonable backgrounds and had good caretakers or parents, um, we are actually trained. I was going to say there's a bit of people pleasing in there, but we are trained to make our parents happy and proud of us. And there's no greater feeling than
oh yeah.
seeing them smile at you and thinking, ah, polishing up their badge. That's my son. That's my daughter. You can see the pride in them and you can feel it too. So if a leader can create that, bottle that up somehow and deliver it to their co-workers and their colleagues, again, that's an amazing thing to have, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and then that if you're able to do that, then you can sit back and strategize or spend time on other things because your team don't need supervision because they're motivated to do it for their own personal development. Their personal development motivates them. The environment they're in motivates them. Their success, their path to success motivates them for themselves. So you don't have to sit there over their shoulder. Hey, what are you doing? Stop! Get off social media. Do this, do that. You don't have to do that. They want to do it. There's so many positives from that kind of feeling.
And I've got a list here in front of me, which is things that you've said, Clayton. So you better recognize these. This will catch you out, won't it? The strategies that you've said, I've been stalking you and I've been looking at some other interviews that you've given as well.
Oh
And
dear.
these are things that you've said. No, it's all good stuff. It's all good because you come from a good place. You've got a good heart, Clayton. But one of the things I read that jumped out of me was making people feel as though they're part of something bigger.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Claytonism.
Yeah. Yeah. That's belonging. As a leader in every situation, every interaction, every day, you have the opportunity to make someone feel that they're part of something. When you feel you're part of something bigger than yourself, you don't want to disappoint those around you. You want to make sure that your contribution is where it should be because people are dependent on you because it's something bigger than yourself. And I use the example very, very often, and you must have seen this. I talk about him so often. Danny knows him very well because Danny on the call here is a massive basketball fan. But Greg Popovich from the San Antonio Spurs, he used belonging signals to basically create one of the best basketball teams ever. But in 2013, they had a better winning ratio than any other team ever put together in any sport. In 2013, there was a guy called Neil Payne, a journalist from America, he was on a quest to find out who was the best basketball team in the modern era, 1979 to 2013. And he designed this algorithm. looking at players' capabilities and skills, and which teams were winning games they should not be winning with the players they have. And every team was kind of winning the same amount of games they should be winning and losing. Even the Chicago Bulls, they were winning the amount of games they should be winning with the players they had. But the San Antonio Spurs won 117 games they should never have won. And when this journalist, Neil Payne, went to spend time with the San Antonio Spurs, he saw how Greg Popovich focused on the individual. Everything he did, he made them feel like they were part of something bigger. And to get basketball players to not play for personal glory, but play for themselves, play for something, a team, is massive, because it's a sport where selfishness is incentivized. In the playoff season, players get paid per basket they score. So in 2013, I remember the article saying the guys were paid, I think, $22,000 a basket. So basically, passing the ball, you're throwing away $22,000. It's incentivizing you not to pass. But the San Antonio Spurs, they kept passing, even in between regular season and playoff. They passed as many as they were the same. They passed the same amount. So they had something there that they were bigger than they were part of something special, and he created that through them feeling like they belonged to something.
And there's a very beautiful thing that happens when you work with people that are all what I call singing from the same hymn sheet, Clayton. When you're on your own, it creates a sense of isolation, and then it creates this competitive edge, and then you can get very suspicious. It doesn't make you feel good as a human being. And when you're cooperating and working with people as a team, there again, I think it's just a feeling that spreads out like sunshine. You know me, Clayton. Sunshine from my heart spreading out around the world. But there's something that happens when people get together as a team that you just cannot even measure. And I suppose that's why people do like going to sports games. Again, it's everyone in the same arena, all doing the same thing, or being part of the same family that are cheering something on. There's something about togetherness which human beings need. We don't always remember how important it is. But when you're talking about leadership, which means you're working with other people, you owe it to them and probably to yourself to try and create that in
Yeah,
whatever way you can.
100%. There's a great quote I read the other day. Leaders achieve things. So you might as well include them in your plans. It's going to give you the best chances of success.
Yeah.
You can't do it by yourself. And one of the things, one of the fundamental basics that leaders should do, and they very often don't, is share the game plan from day one. Does everyone in the team know exactly, what we need to achieve, why we exist as a team, what we want to achieve, and why we want to achieve that? What's our purpose? Does everyone in the team know this? And as you start including people in this, and they all know how valuable their contributions are in this greater game plan, you start getting that collective feeling that, hey guys, we're in this together, right? And that's when people they will naturally excel if they find joy and satisfaction from what they do. They'll naturally excel at it because they look forward to doing it.
And
Um,
that's all human beings want, though, isn't it? To be doing something that's got some meaning, some purpose, some satisfaction. And you're quite right. They will climb mountains for the right person,
yeah.
if they're giving them that out. Now, my second find, the Claytonism that I found, perhaps I've added a bit of joyism into it here, Clayton, but the 15-minute rule for leaders.
The 15-minute rule?
Ooh.
You
Time
got
that
me.
you're meant to allocate, I'll give you a clue here. Time that you're meant to allocate, if you can, within
Oh,
your day at
yes. Yeah, yeah.
least. Ah, ha, 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 ha. Okay, Clayton.
Yes. Yes, yeah. So very often I talk about one-to-ones. They are gold. Having a one-to-one with people is golden for any leader because it gives you such good insights. And so often we make the mistake that a one-to-one must be formal. There should be an agenda. It should be an invite on the calendar. This whole palaver. Something shorter than 15 minutes has so much value. Meeting with someone for 15 minutes has so much value, and regularly giving feedback, because you have an opportunity to really gain insights, how to challenge, how to develop people. I spoke about it this week when I said, I've heard very recently I was working with someone who their leader, they had a team meeting. They had a scheduled one-to-one in the afternoon. And in the morning, there was a team meeting. And after the team meeting, the leader emailed her and said, listen, I'm not going to meet with you this afternoon. I'm going to cancel the one-to-one because I said everything I wanted to say in the meeting. And the one-to-one is not about you, the leader. It is about the person going there, because they might want to share something with you, that they want your approval, they want your guidance, they want your support. It's not about you. So that makes them feel very devalued when you say to them, I've said everything I want to say in a team meeting, I'm going to cancel the one-to-one, because that really takes away from them. In those one-to-ones, as a leader, it's so simple. You can ask questions like, what are you proud of this week? Tell me, Joy, what is one thing that you do not want to ask? What is one thing you do not want me to ask you to do because you can't do it? What's that one thing? What's the one thing you want me to ask you to do because you'll blow my mind with how good you are? And when you start learning about your people like this, so that I always tell leaders, when you send an invite for a 15-minute meeting on your calendar, what reaction is your team member getting? Are they going to go, oh, yeah, we go. Another meeting with Joy, which is going to bring up 6 months ago when I was late and I had to go take my cat to the vet 6 months ago? Or are they going to go, time with Joy, can't believe it, because I get a buzz from it. I'm buzzing after that meeting. Aim for great, aim for those really cool
Those
reactions.
joyful moments. And
Yeah.
and also within, I think another thing that you said, which another thing is around feedback, the
Yes.
importance of feedback, but even the fact that negative feedback is not something you should shy away from. Again, that can be turned around into a very useful situation. So
Yeah.
tell me some
Feedback.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, feedback is so important, and if you see something good, you must say something. It's like the London Underground: see it, say it, sort it. But if you see something, if there's negative feedback to give, also don't delay. Give it as soon as you can after the incident. And even in a negative feedback, this was actually in the book Culture Code. Yes, where they spoke about giving negative feedback and making people feel belong. You can, in a negative feedback, you can say something like, Joy, you know what? I want to give you some comments because I've got very high expectations. This is a very high performing team, but you belong here. And I know you can reach those expectations. Just there, Joy is thinking to herself, wow,
I was
I
about to be told off there.
I belong to something, and he's got really good expectations of me. He thinks I'm really good at this, or that I can do it. Even in appreciation, so seldomly do we actually appreciate or show our appreciation to our people. And if I make you feel good about yourself by giving you very specific something that I'm appreciative of. Again, sorry, you might have heard this one, but I worked with a leader recently where we were sitting down, and I asked her, what did anyone do something this week that wowed you? And she said, yes, actually, one of my team members did. The team member had left for the day. So she said, oh, the team member's gone because they work different shifts. So I said, well, let's WhatsApp them. So we WhatsApp them. We just said, hey, I just wanted to say, I noticed what you did with the marketing team. Absolutely phenomenal. It breaks down barriers, whatever she said. And then they appreciate you, and you make such a big contribution to this team. Thank you. Now, that person would have received it. How do you think it makes them feel?
Over the
You're
moon, over the
going to
moon.
skip into the office tomorrow. Absolutely skip in. Yeah, there's Danny saying catch people doing it right. 100%.
Great, great. And on that happy note as well, bringing it back round to building confidence. And I know you speak a lot about sports. So we've had basketball. You also like talking about football. I've noticed that. Is there any sport that you don't talk about? But confidence, I call it the confidence competence loop. So a bit like that figure eight. You do
Mm.
things well, it makes you feel confident, and then it feeds back into you trying again. So building up people's skills, building up people's ability to do things. I also read about, or at least on your profile, um, was just about this idea of encouraging people to be their own coaches. So it's one thing always relying on someone else to give you the answers, coming back to, let's say, a manager to answer a question which you can find the answers for. It's important to encourage people to become their own coaches, to build their own self-confidence. Just tell me a little bit more about that, if you could, Clayton.
Yeah, so I mean, if you are a leader who's always giving, it's for us as leaders, right? We know the answer. So it's very easy the path to least resistance is to jump in and quickly do it or find a solution. I know, because we like problem solving. That's what we do. So we like to problem solve, but what are we actually teaching, or what kind of benefit is that giving to all those around us? We should be lifting as many people as possible with their personal development and skills. So if we know the answer and we've done a task a million times, and we know exactly how to do it. Don't do it. Refrain from doing it. Let the people or whoever's in your team, let them find the answer, because you're not helping anyone if you do it yourself. And confidence, it's so important when you've shared the game plan with your team and you have pointed out exactly how valuable everybody's contribution is. Now their minds are ready. You play a very important part in their confidence. Because if you imagine you've got a confident team member makes the right decision, always has a little bit of extra time to think about something, is self-assured. Imagine having that kind of confidence. And I do use sports a lot because it's easy to see. It's easy for us to relate to it because we've all seen it. And yeah, in sports, I was saying just the other day how many tennis players there are in the world. There's 87 million registered tennis players on Earth, 3,600 professional tennis players on Earth, but only three men have won 66 Grand Slams since 2004. How on earth have they done that? And if you go and look at the French Open last year, the final between Casper Ruud and Rafael Nadal, in the tunnel, he's already lost. He lost it already. Um, you got this guy, Rafael Nadal, running up and down the tunnel, psyching himself out. You know he's going to chase down every ball. You know he's super confident. You know he's never going to give up. Your confidence levels are going. And in Andre Agassi's book, he says tennis is you playing against yourself, because you talk yourself into losing or you talk yourself into winning. The opponent, yeah, they're part of the puzzle, but you're playing against yourself.
Exactly, and it brings it back around quite nicely to it's the things that you tell yourself and our own mind talk, our own critical thinking, our inner critics. If you're into angels and devils on either shoulder, but your inner critic is the thing that you have to master, and understanding your thoughts. Thoughts have a lot of power. People forget that. And I think there's a Henry Ford quote, if you think you can do it, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So basically, your mind is more powerful than you think. So positive thinking is useful. It's not always possible to be a positive thinker. Sometimes it's okay to be negative. I have a lot of negative thinking too. It balances out some of the stuff that happens. But on the whole, becoming more aware of what's happening to you is the game. And I do talk a lot about emotional intelligence. And it's just a word, but it means about understanding what's going on for yourself, paying a little bit more attention, labeling your emotions if you can, then also understanding that when you meet other human beings, they're going to have their own set of stuff going on. And it's how do you interact with them? So that is a game that's going to happen for human beings all of the time, because we're always meeting different people. So becoming more emotionally intelligent is important. It's important. And different words. I don't know what words you prefer to use, actually, Clayton, because you don't always use that word, emotional intelligence.
No, but for me, for leaders, I mean, everything you do is watched. Your team is like crocodiles. They're in the water, they're watching everything you do, right? You gave Joy a half day. How about me? They watch everything. So you need to, as a leader, be very, very aware, self aware that your behaviors and actions have a massive impact on those around you. If corporate, I say corporate, if the big bosses, company wide, sends a communication that there might be changes in the business, and you're sitting amongst your team members and you roll your eyes, what message have you just sent to all your team members about the message that was communicated? So, as a leader, you have to be so sharp and understand that whatever you do has massive impacts on those around you.
So being a good role model, just as I
Mm.
said, a dad or a mom or caregiver would have to be a good role model in the life of a child. In a way, there's some similarities, not saying that it's a parent adult thing going on at work, but in a way it is
Mm.
hierarchy wise, but you have the ability to be a good role model. Now we have 2 minutes left, and I would like you to tell me, Clayton, what you're up to at the moment, because I know you've got some programs that you've been rolling out and some video lives you've been doing yourself. So just tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Joy. So I've been doing a LinkedIn Live series on the basics of leadership, because that's so important to make sure those solid foundations are there. Today was week 5 where we focused on motivation, and that finishes in 2 weeks' time. So every Friday, I'm doing this course. The course comes with a free ebooklet that people can just ask me or DM me in a LinkedIn comment or LinkedIn DM, and I'll send them the PDF version of the material, which is quite nice. Very soon there'll be a 5-day leadership challenge coming out. which is also very, very nice. So yeah, that's what I'm busy with. Trying to help as many leaders as humanly possible, and it doesn't have to. They don't have to be my customers. It's just nice to be able to have that opportunity to do that.
I was just trying to feed your details into the chat because I'm not clever at this thing yet. I wish I was. Who knows what I've done? I've probably sent a message to Mars or something. But you know what? I can only get better. And forget that. Just forget that, Joy. But you know what? I had such a good time with the audience today, and they helped both of us at the beginning. They showed tremendous leadership skills. I was very, very impressed with that because when things were going wrong at the beginning, I didn't realize I was such a resilient person. I always think I don't do well in a crisis. I flap about. But I have to commend myself. I did really well. Clayton, you definitely helped me. The audience helped us tremendously, and you've shared so much great stuff. And if people do want to get in touch with Clayton, he actually is on LinkedIn, so you can find him there. So Clayton Drotsky, T-R-O. You better spell your own name for me, Clayton. D-R-O-T-S-K-Y. Did I say Trotsky? I must have been thinking about Fools and Horses.
You
It's
know
a
what?
show that we have on in the UK. So sorry about that, Clayton.
No, no problem at all. I was
So
laughing
just
because
just tell people your email address quickly before we disappear.
yeah, it's Clayton@growthgroup.co.uk. So my name and then the company. But what's funny, my surname's Drotsky. It's originally Polish, but we're 13th generation South African. My uncle's name is Leon. So I think my grandparents had a really funny time naming him Leon Drotsky.
Yes,
But
there you
anyway,
go.
it's
Lovely,
hilarious.
lovely. On
So
that happy note, I
yeah,
shall say my goodbyes. I want to thank the audience for being so amazing, keeping us company, giving us such good feedback, putting up such amazing comments. And yeah, we'll catch up with you again. I'll have to talk to you again at some point, Clayton. But I'm
definitely.
now
And Joey, thank you
officially
so much.
2 minutes over time, and I like to be precise. I was going to be there, and I went into another question. That's my fault. Blame me. But have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. And thank you very much to my special guest today, Clayton Drotsky. Let's get that right. Yay! And
Thank you,
catch up with
Joy.
you all very, very soon. Okay. See you
Thank you very
guys.
much. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.